guys, welcome back to Welshby Sports, and it's a historic day for the channel. We are heading down new territory. We're exploring new waters in the big world, and as you can see, we're starting doing some online interviews, and joining me for the first one, creating history, is Shaun Driver from the Red Horde, a very good Wrexham themed YouTube channel and website. Go and check it out if you haven't already. Very, very good content. Thanks for joining me, Shaun.
Hey, I appreciate it, Carl. And I guess the pressure's on the first time, and so, but I'm honored to be here. I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to it.
Something's bound to go tits up, but we'll make the most of it. I'm sure we will.
For sure.
Yeah, so Wrexham winning yesterday at Crawley, a much-needed win. I didn't have the opportunity to watch the game. I believe you did. I followed it online, kept an eye on it. How did Wrexham play?
Well, I actually think that the stats were a little bit off of how we actually played. I thought we played exceptionally well until about the 60th minute then it all went to hell. And it was before the Cannon red card. Crawley had a lot of possession and a lot of passing in the back third, and I was kind of joking about it. We run a watch party. I host a watch party, and so streamed it with about, I think we had 79 concurrent viewers last time. So and through that whole process, I was shocked at not at how much possession they had, but the passing. They were like 300 passes ahead of us by the end of the game, but none of them were really a threat. They had one player, Darcy, who was trouble for us down the right side. And O'Connor did exceptionally well defensively. I don't think he gets enough credit on Twitter for his work early on. The goal, everybody's probably seen it now, by Palmer was absolutely amazing. But they had Darcy and Orsi down their right side were the only two that were giving us fits throughout the entire game. And they did until, well, Darcy came out in like the 88th minute or something foolish. I don't know why they took him out, because he was the straw for them. But we had Hayden stepped up with a couple of blocks. Our back line was there throughout. I don't think Ogonkwo was really under pressure, except they had two misses. One by Campbell that hit the woodwork, and then another one that went straight up over. But we were in control even when we didn't have possession. So I was never really concerned about the match until all of a sudden we came out like gangbusters in the second half. And we had three misses in a row. Palmer missed with a header. Lee missed, swept it to the right. McLean swept it to the right. And it's one of those things when you watch a game and you're like, too many misses, and that's going to come back and bite us in the rear. And I thought, oh, are we in trouble? And then all of a sudden, turnover after turnover. And you probably, if you only saw the highlights, I don't know if you watched the whole match, that red card that Cannon picked up, that was a direct byproduct of an absolute horrible turnover with all of our men up forward. And you can just see when he gets the red card, watch all of the jerseys come scrambling back. We just weren't in position. In a 1-0 game, you can't give away the ball like that. And Cannon ended up clattering into him and taking the red card. So that was my summary in 45 seconds of what happened.
Yeah, I did. I've seen the highlights. I'm not sure how reliable they can be. A lovely goal from Palmer. Really nice goal. And he needed that. He needs to score more goals. And more importantly, it's a match winner. He's made a massive contribution to getting 3 points. So I think that should do him good. Hopefully he can kick on, because there is still some issues, I think, from my perspective. He's not scoring enough goals, but a very, very important goal yesterday.
Yeah, it was an amazing touch, and to be fair, he was on. He was good in possession. He was good with the long ball. He had that right from the McLean corner that came from the left, and I actually don't know how he missed it, because he had so much space and time, and he got up and it went to the right. I swear, if you move that goal 2 feet over to the right, we would have had 4 or 5 goals, because everybody just missed 2 feet to the right. Over and over and over again, and so it was frustrating. But he was impressive. You know what? There wasn't anybody on the pitch that looked off. Ogonkwo was solid throughout, although it was mostly position. What you didn't get in the highlights is his ability to go and get ball and his confidence in going to get it. He had one play where he was out of position the entire time, and he got caught up on his feet and was kind of lucky the ball went wide. I don't think he would have got to it, but he was amazing. And it wasn't a highlight save. It was because he was so good and so direct and so confident at going to get stuff that I don't know if that's going to pick up anywhere else. But the team looked solid. Our biggest problem, and I'll tell you where the biggest problem was for me, and it's 2 games in a row because it happened with Mansfield. We couldn't get the ball from our first third past the midfield stripe. It wasn't that the players were off with ball or in defense. It was that connection, that pass, that through ball that would get us moving forward. And so we were searching for long balls that didn't work. But that was our hiccup. And if we can tidy that up, we had a problem with the back line. Now it's moving from back line to the midfield. And if we can get that figured out, we're going to be in a good place.
You mentioned Okonkwo. On Tuesday, I thought he did very well. I think what you mentioned is awareness, his confidence. He seemed to be well positioned, and he made his debut against Newcastle, didn't he? In the under-21s, I think. He had quite a topsy-turvy game, if I remember rightly. He was a bit uncertain at times. His kicking was a bit erratic, but a good shot stopper.
Yeah,
I am disappointed the way Howard has been dropped. Again, I don't know if he's injured. I've not come across that. It just seemed to be a sudden reaction to the Stockport thrashing. And I'm a bit uneasy with that because I've got a lot of time for Mark Howard, the way he dealt with Ben Foster coming in when he would have perhaps replaced Linton. And he's behaved very professional and he's showed a good attitude. So I'm a bit disappointed that Howard's been dropped, but I am liking Okonkwo now.
Well, he's probably the best soldier that we have as far as just getting out and doing the job and recognizing his role. And maybe that's part of the goalkeeper sort of fraternity, and that they kind of know that there could be new guys coming in and that sort of stuff. Or I guess when Fozzie came in, older guys coming in. Howard's an exceptionally capable goaltender. I don't want to take anything away from him. Do I think that he's at Okonkwo's level? I don't. And so I can understand. I don't know what the locker room chat is. You hope that Parkey handled that properly. I would anticipate that he would. And I think that Howard would take it. I think we're going to see him on Tuesday against Crew for the trophy match, right? I think you give him another run and see what happens. But you got to give credit to Okonkwo too, because when you get that opportunity to sort of seize it, and he has shot stopping with maybe some errors against Newcastle. The last two games, Mansfield though, and the other one, not really as amazing as shot stopping goes, but just smart. Like you could see the intelligence coming in too. And so I think he's just a little bit better than Howard. So to me, how do you keep him on the bench, especially when he's on loan, and you're trying to make the parent club maybe a little happy with giving him opportunity. And so I think it's probably his, and I hope Howard's okay with that, and he gets the odd look. We'll see.
I think they will change the team around on Tuesday. And going back to Howard, he does have a strong relationship with Parkinson. They've worked together before. But like I said, I'm just very impressed with his attitudes since he's been there. And he's taken
100%.
some stick for a few mistakes. And I'm just disappointed if he was sort of the scapegoat for Stockport, which kind of came from nowhere after that brilliant performance against Grimsby at the racecourse, which the best performance of the season. I thought, right, this is it now. That rough start we had is gone. We're going to kick on. Then just that shocker. And it's taken us a while to recover, I think. We haven't recovered from it, really.
Well, I don't know if I think we've recovered from it from the back line. The thing about the Stockport game is in the first, whatever it was, 20, 25 minutes of that game, both teams looked like absolute garbage. Like, just to be completely frank. And so there's lots of battering of the ball back and forth in the midfield, but nobody really taking control. And then when they ended up taking control, it ended up being Stockport just scoring on every single opportunity. And there's my munchkin in the background as you're going live. So they'll deal with that. The curse of the live.
Yeah, but going back to Stockport's goals, a lot of them were very direct, I think. And we made it very easy for them at times. And considering that first goal, I think we struggled to recover from how direct it was. It was against the run of play. We were the better team at that stage. And then they just scored at the right moments. The mistake from Tozer. And we made it too easy for them, and they scored at the right moments. And it was difficult to control.
Well, you look at Swindon Town and Stockport. We ran into two people who did was it Kelly? Is that his last name that plays for Swindon Town? The younger guy for them. It's Barry, obviously, for Stockport.
I know you mean.
But it was both teams just ran at us, and both young guys just ran at us, and we didn't have an answer. I'd like to think that O'Connor moving into the back line has become an answer for that. And I don't know whether Tozer in the middle is right. I don't know if O'Connell's better. To me, that's the one position where I have the concern where they can still come forward. But with O'Connor and Hayden, I on either flank, I'd like to think that that's minimized now. But that's been our troublesome. It's not the balls in through the air. It's not teams that work from the wing and set things up. It's that when they have one player who says, I'm going straight to goal, they cause us problems. And they did that the Stockport game. We'll see what happens. It looks like it was addressed to me, but then we haven't run into a player like Barry or Kelly, if I've got his name wrong, from Swindon Town, who just chewed us up.
Yeah, well, Crew, even though they scored 3, I wasn't really impressed with their cutting edge. They had a lot of the ball, and we let them, certainly in that first 10 minutes. They didn't really do a lot with it. Mansfield, in that first half, were dominant on Tuesday. We kind of let them. They didn't have much firepower or creativity. I said Swindon, I was there at the racecourse, looked very impressive. There are teams who were quite impressive going forward, a lot of firepower, quick players, good attacking football. And like Crew never had that. I don't think Mansfield had that. I'm not sure about Crawley.
No, Crawley had it with Darcy. Darcy was on fire and caused a lot of problem. But O'Connor, he had like about 3 or 4 really good tackles or duels that he engaged in down their right, our left side. He stripped possession from them right at the critical minute. And that was key to us, because I don't know how many balls could have just come in and caused nightmarish situations. And he was the answer down that side. Hayden had a really big block, which he seems to have at least one every game. And so I'm with you that they weren't as creative. They were certainly more creative than Mansfield. Mansfield, amazing structure, but I just never felt under threat from them at all. Like they're gonna have to 0-0 or 1-1 throughout the entire season, and they have been doing it. But I don't know if you can keep that up. You got to find some offense somewhere. Crawley, I think, is a little bit more a tougher handful than Mansfield, because they've got some structure to them, but they do have a couple of players that are a little bit more creative. And I think we dealt with it better than we had in the past. Whether the players are the same level, I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
And yesterday, Palmer, a goal for Palmer, as we've discussed, a very important goal for him. Is Palmer and Mullin, you think, is that the right strike force going forward? Is that Wrexham's best strike force?
Well, it's weird. I'm going to be honest with you, because there was no streaming in the National League last year until whatever it was, December. I never got to see Palmer except for the highlights, right? And so Palmer, early part of last season, was on fire, right? He was scoring at a clip that was impressive, and I was like, this Palmer-Mullin combination is the best thing since sliced bread. All of a sudden we get the streaming, and Palmer's game coincidentally starts to decline at that same point of time. I haven't seen Palmer at his best. Do we see snapshots of it? Absolutely. Yesterday was an amazing snapshot. That outside the boot right foot flick, that was gorgeous. But I look at the roster that we have right now, and if I'm saying best squad on the team, I think you kind of give Fletcher a run. And I know people might end up cursing me and saying that that's unfair. But I think that Mullin and Fletcher is the better option on a go forward. But Palmer is going to have those moments of brilliance. And so you've got to keep him around and probably put him in their fair amount. And how old is Fletcher now? 36?
Something like that, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know if he's going to be able to get a run out every
exceptional.
game.
His quality is exceptional. Is he just a bit, for a player like that to come down, so a club like Wrexham to come down the leagues, it's a massive, massive signing. But as we talked before we started recording about the Luke Armstrong debacle, do we need someone a bit younger and fresher? Because I've always felt we needed another Mullin. If we could find a Mullin somewhere, Langstaff, Tishamanga, who I've always liked, Paddy Matt, someone who can get as many goals as Mullin and be as lethal as Mullin, rather than just chipping in with the odd 8 or 9. We need another 20+ striker if we really want to go for it. So I don't know is he a bit too old, Fletcher, although he has the quality and the experience.
Well, I definitely think he's a stopgap, and I think if we're looking to be moving up the ladder, we need to find that 24 to 27-year-old striker that's going to fit in the role, learn from Mullin, learn from Palmer and Fletcher while they're there, and get that improvement. Whether that happens in January, whether that happens in the offseason, I'm not certain, because with the group that we have up front now, I'm at least confident enough that we can, if our problem is not with our ability to score goals, and it's not with the guys up front. I mean, Mullen got stopped for the first time on a breakaway I think that I ever saw yesterday, which was shocking. But the quality of play, we've got best strikers in the league. In my eyes, the issue for me is not necessarily personnel. It's just getting the guys together to figure things out in that midfield back line area, right in the center of the park. The wings are fine. The front is fine. The goal is fine. It's just that 5-6 players in the midfield and the center of the back line. And so long term, yes, we need to have a younger striker. Short term, I'm not sure we need it right now.
Because I think at the end of last season, it looked like Dalby was going to be the one. He was the one we were kind of relying on to complement Mullin and support Mullin, certainly in the last 10 games or so. And he seems to have lost his sparkle a bit. Bickerstaff started well early on. He's kind of lost it a bit.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, I can't really explain that. It looks like for Parkinson, it is Palmer and Mullin is his first choice. If we can get them to complement each other, use Palmer's height, his strength, and just Mullin's work rate and overall ability to get stuck in, to drift about, to read the game well, if they can somehow get that combination to gel.
Yeah. It's tough for me because when I end up looking at players, I end up looking, okay, what's their top end going to be and where are they going to be? Bickerstaff, Dalby at their best. What do we think that they are? Capable League One strikers? Is that what they are at their best? Certainly serviceable, certainly an exceptional talent. It's not easy to be a capable striker at League One if that's where you think their top end is. And I think for both of them, that's where I put them for different reasons. I think for us, if we're in League Two and we're looking to climb the ladder and you've got Mullen and Fletcher that are there, you're looking to bring somebody in that has the capacity, who's not there yet, but whose top end is, capable championship or even exceptional championship level quality, right? And that's where you're looking for the next 2, 3, 4 year plan. Do I think that Dalby and Bickerstaff have that in them? Not personally, and I hope I'm wrong. But then that's not to say they're not exceptional footballers. That's not to say that they're not amazing for Wrexham. That's just to say, you want to be able to find people to plug holes to climb. And they certainly have a role, and they certainly are impressive players. But do I think we can get somebody in or need somebody, in the summer that might bump us up to that next level? Yeah. And so that's how I approach it anyway, right or wrong.
But obviously with Elliot Lee, they do have options for goals. And especially the defenders as well. Hayden scores a lot of goals. Boyle has scored a lot of goals. So we do have options in terms of goals. It's just that prolific, that striker who can match Mullin somehow.
Yep. And I almost think that you've got Mullen, and I know that Parky likes to have his big guy and then Mullen is a small guy, but I don't consider Mullen to be a tiny person. And he's a bulldog on the ball, and he creates a lot of turnovers. I almost wouldn't mind seeing somebody like a poacher. And the best one that I can think of is a Canadian international, Jonathan David. He's not going to come to Wrexham. I'm not saying that, but a player like that who is just exceptional with loose ball in the box and finding things. You've got the mountains for the crosses in Boyle and Hayden, but who's able to pick things up in the scramble and just seems to be in the right place. A young, quick poacher who can then serve ball and kind of work with Lee in that dynamic. That would be exciting to me to see as well. I don't know all the characters that are out there. I don't know. It's tough enough to get caught up on all the players in League Two. Forget about who's around for transfers and opportunities. But I do see an opportunity for somebody to step into Wrexham January or in the summer. That's just another level up.
And I noticed Tozer didn't play yesterday. He was rested, I believe.
I suspect
O'Connell came in for him.
Yeah.
How did he play? Is that was that a better back three? Was there a back three they played?
Hayden and O'Connor were brilliant, and I have absolutely zero reason to end up questioning anything they do. And O'Connell, to me, gets a 95%. He had one mistake, and you can see it on the highlight. I think it's the Darcy opportunity with the left over top. and he kind of gets a little bit lazy and gives up the position, and it was just too easy. Missed the ball, landed on Crawley's left boot, and we were fortunate it didn't go into the back of the net. And that to me, that was a positional lapse, and that seems to be the issue with O'Connell. He's great when he's got ball at feet or ball in air. It's just sometimes he gets off wrong shoulder. I can't remember which game it was. It was one of the ones that we had 5 in. I don't think it was Stockport. I think it was before that against Swindon, where he got onto the wrong shoulder again. And you're giving free lanes to people to be able to go and get to the ball. And that, to me, as a newcomer to the game, watching it and applying at least hockey skill to football as much as it is, you get on the wrong shoulder and you're not in a lane, you're going to give up opportunities. And that happened once. But other than that, he was far improved to what he was previously, because I was ready to bin him, to be completely fair. 4, 5, 6 days ago, when he was brought out of the lineup for a break, he looked far more confident, far more capable, and in the right position, all but the one time. But he was good.
And I've watched Parky's interview. He praises Mendy, who was switched to the right
side, yeah.
Games. And he did look a bit vulnerable against Mansfield in the first half. Certainly, I think they tried to exploit him being out of position.
Yep.
But he did well in the second half. That game against Mansfield was much better in the second half. It opened up a bit, and it was end-to-end stuff. I think both teams could have won. It was a lot more open in the second half. I thought Mendy got forward well. He's an interesting player, Mendy. I think he's very creative, very, very powerful going forward. I like him a lot. He just doesn't seem to have the consistency.
And I hope he's not injured. It looked like when he came off, it was due to injury. Got that bad ball over on the right-hand side. It was served up to him too high, and he tried to get up with his foot to go and get it and came down awkwardly, and it looked like a hamstring. It was one of those ones that when you see it, you're like, that's going to take at least a couple of games. For me, I've always asked, because I don't know the formations well enough, and I don't know strategy-wise well enough to be able to plan, but I kept asking on Twitter, how do we get McLean and Mendy onto the pitch at the same time? Because and this isn't to take away from Barnett, he's great down the right side, but to me, it's start of the year, who was the best, one of the best players on the team? It was Lee and it was Mendy, and then you add McLean. He was great for his first little run, and I thought then McLean I think started to come down a little bit, whether international play, whatever it was. But I thought, how do you get the two of them on the pitch at the same time? And I thought, does Parky have to change to like a different formation? But this seems to be the answer, at least while Barnett's out. If there is an injury, it may answer the question, but I don't know what happens when Mendy's looked great. I thought down the right side, a little bit questionable in the last one. His ability with his left foot to swing out swingers, I thought was impressive by hitting off the inside of the boot. I saw that a couple of times, and I thought he's got a knack that he's learning into, and he played the position, so I thought it's one he could grow into. We'll see what happens. I'm curious to see if he's hurt and whether Barnett comes back one more game and Mendy's out now waiting to get an opportunity again. It's a
player we always needed, like Barnett, Mendy, very similar players, very aggressive going forward, creative, unpredictable. And I think you need those type of players. But
and he's the best on the team. He's the best on the team up in the corner at crossing somebody up to be able to find a cross or a corner. Like, he'll be in tight, and he has just a knack for that little step one way or the other to be able to get it in. That's an art, and he's probably the best on the team at it, I think. Because
it's since the Stockport defeat, I saw it against Crewe and against Mansfield. They've sat back. They started the game to try and be organised, not give a goal away early, and to play on the counter. I'm not sure how effective that was against Mansfield, because we invited Mansfield on. We absorbed a lot of pressure. They didn't really create much, but I don't think we got forward enough. And players like Mendy and obviously McLean and Barnett, you need them if you're going to play on the counter.
Yeah.
I think that seems to be the strategy since Stockport.
We did go back to that early press.
Very negative and sit back early on.
I did notice that since the loss that we were sitting back. But one of the things that I liked is Parky tends to have that first 10, 15-minute press before we end up falling into position. We went back to that against Crawley. And you look at the possession stats early on, and I think we took control of the first 8 minutes of the game, and we had them on the back foot. Then we were still pressing, but Crawley Town had an answer, and they were still in possession. And then we sort of shelled back into our game. But at that point, we were up 1-0 because I think, what was it, a 12th minute goal by Palmer?
Yeah, 12, 13, something like that.
12th,
Yeah.
13th minute, something like that. And that was a byproduct of that press that did work for us. So it was there, it was available, and it looked good. And then we just sort of fell into this. It was a boring game. It was a lot of up to the midfield strike, back to the goalkeeper, up to the midfield strike, and 40 passes later, and they finally end up crossing into the third. A missed opportunity, not really much of a threat there. And then we get the ball, and we were pushing quicker. But we have to clean up that when we get pressed, our ability to get up to the midfield when everybody's back, there's just nobody that we can end up finding going forward. It's just clearance, give the ball away, clearance, give the ball away, clearance, give the ball away. And we had 35 minutes of it yesterday.
You see, a boring game. There haven't been many so far, have there? There's not many boring games. I was surprised on Tuesday, 0-0. Normally we're conceding a load or scoring a load. It's very, very rare to finish 0-0 when Wrexham are involved.
Well, the Mansfield game I found to be more exciting and more interesting because there's still action going on back and forth. It wasn't that both teams weren't searching, right? But really, and I don't want to say it was not exciting. It was not exciting for the wrong reasons. As soon as Cannon went off, obviously we end up sliding back, and it was just park the bus, defend like mad. And away we went. And we did that until the 85th, 86th minute. And then as soon as they took Darcy out, which to me was the dumbest mistake I've seen a manager take, you've got the guy who's doing damage to Wrexham, the only guy who's an offensive threat. They yanked him. And then the next 5 minutes, we were great. We kept the ball. You had Davis. Davis looked really good. Really good. His effort, his work rate, if you see the highlights I saw only had his kick, but he went down to the goal line and busted his butt. Got down to the goal line, able to nick one off and get it back for a corner, and just kind of did the little sheepish, like, all right, we're good. He saved us 2.5 minutes just on his efforts and took him off the clock. He was amazing when he came in.
I think the midfield for us, like I said, the squad is so deep now. There's so much strength, depth, and cover. Yeah. I still think the midfield is the area we don't quite know what the best setup is. And the best,
I'm with you.
Team.
And where's Young?
I think with every other position, I think we've got to kind of know who the starters are. But that midfield area, who would you pick? You think was it would be Cannon to sit at the back? I mean, O'Connor as well to be a type of holding midfielder. Hopefully, Young going forward. Jones comes in now and again. There's Davis. There's so many options there, and I think they're struggling to pin down the right partnership and the right team there. Because again, the midfield at times does get overrun sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's probably our most vulnerable area, considering we've got so much talent. It's about getting the right players there, the right setup.
And I don't know where Young is. He got pulled out, or is he injured? I don't know. I didn't think that the Stockport game you talked about answers or reactions to that game. I don't think him being stripped out of the lineup was the right one. I think he's needed in the midfield, at least off the bench. O'Connor being in the back, he's got to stay there now. 2 games, and he's been really solid back there. As much, do I think it's his best position? No. Do I think it's best for the squad? Yes. Do I think he's exceptionally talented there? Yeah. And so that's one answer to the question, is he goes back. But to the midfield, other than Lee being penciled in every single game unless he can't, I don't know what you do there. And good on Davis for making Parky ask the questions, because damn it, he looked really good for the 5-minute run out that he had. And whether he's just coming in at the end to end up covering defensively, and that's his role, that's a player that still is serviceable. So I don't know. Young Evans has been just a rock. And so I that's the joy of having as much wealth as we have, I guess.
So I forgot about Evans. That's another player who are exceptionally talented. And you would think he would be a starter. But there's so many options, and there is a tendency to perhaps rotate and rest when you have the options.
Yeah,
and you don't quite get that consistent performance because you're changing the players so often to try and obviously keep them fresh, maintain their fitness, and keep people happy sometimes. But it also depends who you're playing. Also, you have to try and build your team around the opposition as well.
It's going to be interesting to see the growth and the development of the squad. It's going to be interesting to see how Parky coaches his way into solving some problems, because I think he's done that with the back line. Now we've got another problem to solve. I think that the team is in the right stead. You've got Mullen now running, and the next couple of games here leading up to Notts County at the end of the month, I'd like to put some points away here, get to the Notts County one, and hopefully put some points away there. And if we can do that, I still see us being in that top automatic promotion, running things forward. We've got too much depth, and we've proven that. We went through a nasty injury phase, and including our top player, and we're still in it. We're right there. So I'm happy. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so we're now up to 7th. So that's the last playoff place.
Yep.
4 points off the top. So being 7th, only 4 points off the top, which is Notts County. I think there's 6 points that separate the top 10 from 10th to Notts County to the top. It's only 6 points.
Yep.
So there's a lot of teams there. It's a fairly... Nobody's settled yet. It's taking shape, but it isn't quite settling. I think Gillingham have dropped down a bit. They might have gone back. They were doing so well at one stage. Swindon have lost a couple.
The Dons fell off the map.
You've got the top 10.
Yeah.
It's starting to take shape, but no one's settled yet.
Yeah, and nobody's played this. I mean, you look at strength of schedule, which is what we do a lot with, at least our college football, because there's just too many teams and not enough games. And so you look at how the other teams are doing. Our strength of schedule, we've had a tough run compared to most up at the top. There's still work to be done. You've got to take care of the teams on the lower end, but of the table. But this last week, Crawley and Mansfield, that's no joke. We've got Notts the day before Halloween, I think it is, on the 30th. We've got Salford. Let's take care of things here and move forward. I'm optimistic. Talk to me mid-November, because I think it's an important run here, and we'll see how things end up being.
Before we go, I did say a quick 10 minutes. We could still be here for another 2 hours if we get carried away.
Probably, and I got a watch party to go.
Before I let you go, I just say, have you been surprised by League Two? What were you expecting when Wrexham looking so good last year, the favourites to win the league, all this hype and attention? Have you been surprised with the League Two, how tough it is, how difficult?
I expected, comparing to National League, that you were going, instead of having 2, maybe 3 teams that were going to give you a run, I expected that number to be about 7 or 8. Maybe I was wrong there. It could be as many as 10. I expected the bottom to be not as good, and I think that was accurate. I think that having 2 up, 2 down between the conference and League Two saves some clubs that don't deserve to be there, and there's better clubs down in the National League than the bottom of the League Two table. And so I think I was right there, that there are 3, 4, maybe half a dozen teams that are off the pace. But what surprised me, if I was wrong, was how strong the sort of the middle of the table would be. I thought that there would still be a step down there, and I don't think that was accurate. I think that there's more quality in the middle of the table, and those games, there's more opportunity for those mid-table teams to steal one, which makes it fun and also more stressful. But I'm confident in the squad that we have. I think that we're deserve to be even better than we are based on the quality of the team. It's just now that we're back from injury and we've gone through the tougher schedule, now's the time to show that we deserve to be up there. So we'll see.
For a team that's just been promoted, we're clearly not out of our depth. And I think it's October. We're guaranteed to be here next season. We're not going to get relegated. So that's something that we're guaranteed to be in League Two next year. Football League.
Yep.
Football. My team to watch is Stockport. I think they could be the team to beat over the recent form and the form they're showing now. I think if you finish above Stockport, you've done very well. 3 go up automatically. Obviously, a 4th spot through the playoffs. We've got a chance. I think we're a definite top 10 team, but it's very, very competitive there. And at the moment,
100%.
Lots of teams are playing each other. And like I said, no one's quite settled. No one's running away with it yet. But I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you, Shaun. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No,
I really do appreciate this. And we'll do it again sometime. Thank you, Shaun. Shaun Driver from the Red Horde. Cheers, mate. I'll see you again.
Thank you. Until next time. You bet.